Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Sorry. No, it's not here.
Roll call.
Chisel.
Here.
Bell Richards.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Here. Here.
Bergen.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Bergen.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Bell Richards.
Aye.
Public comment. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak for something that may not be on the agenda? Seeing none. We have Kristen with a report and update from the library.
We've had an eventful year at the Decorah Public Library, to say the least. As you know, foremost on our to-do list has been evaluating and prioritizing our building needs. This will continue to take precedence over the next year as we begin to address those needs. Our space has continued to be a busy one between circulation of our collection, programs for all ages, technology use, and public meeting spaces. We've also been preparing for a reaccreditation application to the State Library of Iowa, due every 3 years in February. One of the documents that you have in your Dropbox is the board-affirmed 3-year plan that will be submitted with that application. Hopefully those goals are given greater context tonight. I'm not going to read through the statistical report from fiscal 18 since I know you already have that in your files. Instead, I'd like to start by highlighting just a few key figures, and then I'll speak briefly about 3 common misconceptions about libraries, including ours. Key usage statistics. We saw a 2.3 increase in patrons in fiscal 18, and we add about 40 new patrons monthly for a total of over 19,000. Circulation, you'll see on your handout in your Dropbox the figure 134,000. That's based on the way that the state tabulates, and I'm focusing more specifically on some items that affect our local users, which are checkouts of our physical materials, interlibrary loans from other Iowa libraries, and online ebook and digital audiobook checkouts. So that number is about 123,281. That's a 1.5% decrease in fiscal 18, where we saw an increase in ebook circulation, but a decrease in hard copies and interlibrary loans. We are projecting, however, in fiscal 19, based on the figures so far this year, that we'll see a 4.6% increase, somewhere around 129,000 checkouts. That could be attributed to any number of things, but it's possible that the weeding of our collection that we've been doing may have played a factor, because that's something that usually happens when you start to clear out some of the old. People have better access and are more likely to circulate the new. As far as programming goes, we had an 11.6 increase in attendance and a 4% increase in the number of programs offered in fiscal 18. Over 8,000 people attended programs, and there were 452 programs in total. In fiscal 17, we had over 7,500 attendances, so still nothing to sneeze at. For our public meeting spaces, we had a 57% increase in fiscal 18 to over 6,000 users, but we also improved our data collection methods, so it's possible that the jump wasn't quite as big as that number would lead you to believe, although we did see significant increase. We expect to have over 6,500 people use our public meeting spaces in the current year based on what we've seen so far. I'll turn now to debunking a few common misconceptions about public libraries. I phrase this in general terms because these misconceptions are universal, but they're also specific to our library, as I get asked about one of these things almost every day. Misconception number 1. Libraries are dying out because A, Google, B, no one reads anymore, C, people read but only ebooks, and D, okay, maybe some people read hardcover books, but they buy their own. Libraries are not dying out. People are now inundated with more information than ever before, and the fact that computers and Google exist does not mean that everyone is adept at using them. People need help using technology, they need help finding the information they're looking for, and they need help evaluating the sources of that information. We assist patrons with finding and evaluating information and navigating the world of technology every single day, whether that's informally or at one of our 100 annual Tech Help sessions. Studies show that not only do people still read, they're reading in multiple formats: hard copy, ebook, book on CD, or digital audiobook. People are accessing these varied format materials from, yes, their local libraries, and also by purchasing from local booksellers, online vendors, and/or subscription services. These are not mutually exclusive options. It has always been the case that the majority of readers supported both libraries and bookstores. By the same token, it's not true that everyone can afford to buy their own books any more than it's true that everyone can afford to buy computers and printers and have high-speed internet at home. That's simply not the world we live in. Providing equal access to resources is one of the primary goals of public libraries everywhere. In the past year, we circulated over 125,000 physical and digital items locally. In addition to serving our own community, over 23,000 items were large print books sent to more than 120 Iowa libraries for use by those with visual impairments. As I mentioned in my Dropbox handout about national library trends, it's true that circulation is declining somewhat at the national level, though not nearly as precipitously as the naysayers would have you believe. But that decline is more than made up for by the increase in the public's use of libraries for programming, technology, and as a community meeting space, a trend which is also reflected in our community. This brings me to my next point, misconception number 2. The idea that libraries are, and should only ever be, quiet repositories of books, that libraries shouldn't embrace alternate material formats, shouldn't engage in technological advancement, shouldn't offer programs, and should definitely never leave the confines of their four walls because, well, that's how libraries were 100 years ago. If we were to resign ourselves to this way of thinking, the death of libraries that I debunked in number 1 might actually come to pass. The reality is that libraries have always evolved in order to meet the changing needs of the populations that they serve, and that means everyone, not just people who want to sit quietly and read hard copy books, though of course we applaud that particular habit as well. For every person who wants their library to be a place for quiet reading only, there are many others who want, need, and support a wide variety of other activities happening at their local library. This is also a professional standard in the public library field, that we strive to meet our community members where they are, not where we think they should be. That means that we're not here to dictate that everyone come to our physical building and sit quietly reading a book. Increasingly, libraries are multifaceted community centers for imagination, curiosity, reading, learning, and technology, not to mention a welcoming space for public discussion and positive face-to-face interactions. Libraries are also seeking innovative partnerships with other civic, educational, and nonprofit organizations and with their business communities for the benefit of all involved parties. Thanks to both technology and increased community partnerships, libraries are reaching out far beyond the impact that they can have simply within the four walls of their bricks and mortar facilities. This is absolutely necessary not only to serve our patrons where they are, but to continue to be institutions relevant to our society. Which leads me to misconception number 3. A library should never discard books, even if they haven't been checked out in many years, the information contained therein is factually incorrect, or they're in deplorable condition. Not even if the shelves are in danger of toppling and books are stacked on the floor should anything be weeded. Not only would a collection that was never maintained be a health and information hazard, it's against best practices in the library field to allow this to happen. And in fact, the state library requires withdrawal of a certain percentage of a library collection annually, in addition to setting a threshold for a certain percentage of acquisitions of new materials. There's a very detailed manual, the gold standard for public libraries, that explains at length how to evaluate the health of your library collection. This is what public librarians use as their guide when making the difficult decision about what materials need to go and when. It's important to understand that deselection of materials is like pruning a few branches in order to prolong the health and longevity of a tree. We prune so that we can continue to grow, which is necessary since we add approximately 3,000 new books annually, thanks to our book budget and generous support from the Friends of the Library. There are libraries out there whose job it is to become archives for the written word, usually special or academic libraries, but that is not the role of public libraries. Public libraries are meant to serve their local community. In our case, this means lots of new materials for children, youth, and adults in both fiction and nonfiction areas. This means audio and visual materials. And this means that in order to continue to add new things and to make browsing both easy and enjoyable for the public, that we need to discard outdated or damaged materials to make room for new ones. In closing, libraries are changing because the world around us is changing. And we all know that change can be uncomfortable for a variety of reasons, but it can also be a source of innovation, excitement, and new growth. We at the Decorah Public Library are committed to providing the best possible collections, programs, and services to our community, and will continue to work towards that end. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I would welcome further conversation about library trends and best practices at any time. Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you. What kind of comments, questions from City Council?
Have you had any success scheduling for the tuck pointing and various things, or is that still?
We have not heard from them yet about their anticipated schedule for the season.
Thank you.
The Friends of the Library, obviously, have been extremely supportive. That board is a very qualified and energetic group and very advantageous for the library.
Their support probably almost single-handedly has accounted for the increase in programming attendance that we've seen, because they've contributed a lot of funding towards that end in the past couple of years, over $20,000 in the last 3 years alone.
I've had a lot of, and I didn't count, but I hear a lot of comments about being able to download and read the books on people's devices, especially if they go to anywhere, traveling, whatever. But that has been one of the bigger comments that I've had from citizens. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Consent agenda.
Consent agenda this evening consists of minutes of the January 7th, 2019 meeting, your claims list, a renewal Class E liquor license for Casey's General Store, including Class B native wine, Class C beer, and Sunday sales privileges. Partial pay estimate number 5, 2018 hangar improvement project, in the amount of $40,107.77. A C3 commercial design review application for 421 West Water Street, courtyard cellar sign, and acceptance of the fiscal 18 audit report.
I'll make a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Second. Go ahead, Steve.
Any points of discussion?
Without that?
Take your pick.
Well, I think there was like an echo.
She did it.
Echo effect here. Roll call?
Carlson?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Hadley? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Consider approval of an update of council rules and procedures. Want to comment on this?
There were three updates I put in there based upon the discussion from the last council meeting. One had to do with the timing of a motion to reconsider. It can be within 2 council sessions after the motion is originally considered. And then also how long that ban on a motion to reconsider would be in place, either 1 year or the way I worded it would be the January after a regular city council election, whichever comes first. And then the third change had to do with the city council can, on a vote of 5 out of 7, can also hold a motion to reconsider. So I think those were the 3 changes there was a consensus on.
Any questions, comments?
I would motion to approve the updated council rules of procedure as stated.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Consider ordinance 1231, amending the code of ordinance pertaining to city engineer, second reading.
This is a second reading, just updating the Code of Ordinances, several different sections pertaining to organizational structure, basically, of the new city engineer position. Second reading.
I'd move for approval of ordinance 1231 and adopt, or waive and adopt, third reading. Second.
Chad, do we have any public comment regarding that?
We've received no comments at City Hall.
Okay.
See, do we have
So-
who seconded?
Yeah, it
Okay,
does.
all right.
So who seconded that motion?
Ross.
Okay, so the first motion is to
To-
approve second reading.
Approve second,
Once
okay.
that's taken care of, then you can consider
Then I'll-
third and adopt.
Okay.
I'll rescind my second.
Okay. Any discussion on the second reading?
Well, you'll modify your second, but you still second the first motion, right?
Yeah,
No discussion, roll call?
clear as mud.
Yeah, so the motion is to approve second reading. Chisel?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
And
Now you may
I'll move to waive and adopt, waive the third reading and adopt ordinance 1231.
I will second waiving the third reading and adopt ordinance 1231.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Chisel?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Motion passed. Consider board and commission appointments. I appreciated greatly our discussion at our last city council, and after taking considerations, my intent is to appoint Ryan Delaney and Joel Zook to planning and zoning.
I would move for approval of Ryan Delaney.
Second?
Question, are we doing these separately?
Yes.
Okay,
That would be
thank you.
staff recommendation is to handle them separately.
That sounds great. Any other discussion? Roll call?
On the motion to appoint Ryan Delaney to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Chisel?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Move to appoint Joel Zook, Planning and Zoning Commission. Second?
And I'll abstain from this vote due to familial relationships.
You do?
Any discussion?
I think we need people on this board that are a little bit more business-friendly. We saw in the audit report that our local options were down, so anytime we get an opportunity to bring in a large retailer, we should be looking to how can we work with them rather than drive them out. Plus, we don't want people on this board that are organizing to push out established businesses that are here.
I appreciate the business aspect. I did, when I sat and reviewed, I also realized the work in a short time that Joe has had, and which was brought to the city council at the last city council meeting, as far as the amount that he put into looking at planning and zoning. And I felt that the communication with him in the future would stand in good steadfast to appoint him again to that commission. But I agree with your aspect as far as representation for businesses as well.
Past actions speak louder than future words.
Well,
You want to speak to pushing out other businesses you're talking about?
Organizing to try and get Alliant Energy out of town. Being one of the people that worked on it, obviously the voters stood for what they wanted, but given his position, I don't feel that is something the P&Z members should be doing.
I know.
I don't think they were necessarily doing that. I think they were looking into it. I don't think they were saying we want to get rid of Alliant. I think they were just looking at the option to look into that. I don't think anyone said we were going to get rid of Alliant.
Further discussion? Roll call.
So on the motion to appoint Joel Zook to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Luce?
Aye.
Bell Richard?
Aye.
Chisel?
No.
Bergen abstains. Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Okay. I also want to make a comment in relation to Brian Cook, and I know we don't give out gold watches, but the amount of time he spent, and what's the usual procedure when somebody leaves? Is it just a comment? I want to make note of the fact of the hard work that he put forth towards the planning and zoning for all the years that he was here.
You may wish to send him a card or something.
I will do
but that's-
so.
Yeah.
I will do so. Thank you. Okay, city manager and department heads.
Just to give the council an update on a couple of things that we're working on at the staff level. With John in the city attorney's office, we are working on the annexation that we've been pulling together over the last, actually several years. It'll be the last piece of our Highway 9 East improvement project, which included the water and sewer extension and annexation of several other properties along that corridor. We're getting closer to kind of finalizing that process. Working on some updates to several different ordinances. And just a reminder of the Iowa Main Street Lunch and Learn this Thursday, January 24th at 11, probably run till about 1 o'clock or so, for as long as people want to stay and ask questions of the staff person from Iowa Main Street. Thanks.
Okay? Don't all jump at the mic at once. Anybody? Thank you.
We have received a few calls inquiring about water temperatures. We've taken temperatures of all 6 wells, and they're ranging from upper 40s to lower 50s, so not a major concern yet as far as water temperature and freezing pipes and everything else. Normally, when it gets to close to that 40-degree range is when we start getting concerned, so we have a long way to go. Residents have done a good job with checking crawl spaces, basements, heat, whatever else. We've only had maybe 1 or 2 frozen meters. Temperatures are not going to get warmer anytime soon, so please keep checking on those things and make sure you have plenty of heat. And also, we've had a accumulation of snow, so if you do see a fire hydrant that is maybe covered or close to being covered, we're asking residents or somebody to please make a path to those for the fire department. Seconds in that situation means a lot, so thanks.
For those of you with kids or those of you that like an excuse to get dressed up, on Sunday at the Carey Lee Gym, we'll be having Superhero Sunday, free park and rec event for families. Come dressed as your favorite superhero and join us for an afternoon of games, crafts, and fun. It'll be 12 to 3 at the Carey Lee Gym.
Last week, we sent out a phishing scan test to all city email addresses. We didn't do as well as I thought we would have done on that, so there'll be some follow-up training messages that go out. So that's what it is.
Police department, anything as far as towing is concerned?
We asked everybody to be conscious of the snow emergencies and keeping cars moved so that the street department can keep up with the plowing while the roads are narrow to begin with, and then when you have cars that accumulate snow and create a berm, it makes it even more difficult. So we are aggressively towing vehicles that are not being moved, and we would just ask people to be aware of that.
Okay, along with that, once again, a reminder for everyone who owns property to be shoveling their sidewalks. It's extremely important. Anything else? Randy?
Just a reminder that February 4th at 4 o'clock, we'll be doing the budget.
And that will be similar, we'll work on the budget?
We'll meet for hour and 45 minutes, take a break, have
5:45?
at 5:45, have a short council meeting, and then wrap it up.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Nothing further, Mayor?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
We have a public safety meeting right after this meeting.
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing, Mayor.
Okay, I've attended county commissions that I'm on, Winnebago County Emergency Management, Winnebago County Conference Board, which works with the Assessor's Office, 911 Board. I am also in the process of reviewing Ordinance 17.44.010, which relates to planning and zoning and the powers and when an item is failed at a planning and zoning, bringing it back to the city council for supermajority. I have been working with John and we're doing research as far as where that could have originated in the state code, and we'll be getting more information to you as we look through that. So it's a matter of looking through all of the city codes, the state codes, what effect that would have. But as I looked at the mission and goals for different commissions were in relation to the powers as far as city council that are elected officials, I feel it's worthy to look at and explore. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.